Hello everyone, and welcome to video update number 2. So let's just get right into this. We have a bug fix, right? We fixed the targeting issue where after a kill or just randomly, it would target yourself rather than an enemy near you. So you'd be attacking, you'd kill maybe 3 guys, and all of a sudden it targets yourself, and now it's no longer attacking. This has been fixed so that it never targets you. It'll target the correct enemy nearest you. And we cleaned up AI variable defaults. This is more for development side. You can ignore that. I created a data table for AI scaling factors for attack, defense, and health for each race. I'll get more into that in just a moment. That's what you see in the background here. Right? This is the data table for each race with tier factors. So I set scaling factors for 6 tiers of all enemy races. Tier 1 is always 0.20, followed by a 0.25 somewhere, followed by a 0.30. for a specific stat, health, attack, or defense. One stat will always be a 0.30, while another is 0.25, and the last is 0.20. It never doubles, so you're not going to have this tier 1 dragon. Notice he's got a 0.2, a 0.3, I'm sorry, 0.2, 0.25, and 0.3. He's not going to have a 0.2, a 0.2, and a 0.3, or a 0.2, 0.3, 0.3. It's only ever going to have 1.2, 1.25, and 1.3. Every additional tier adds 0.05 to each stat, so enemies get higher scaled stats for a higher tier. So a green dragon is the lowest guy, right? He's a tier 1. Queen dragon would be a tier 2, followed by a guardian dragon is a tier 3, etc., etc. A minotaur, same thing. You got a Slithis would be tier 1. You know, a common minotaur I think would be the next one, tier 2, so on and so forth. So you'll notice the dragon, his lowest tier is defense, right? He has a 0.20. So dragons have lowest tier factor of defense, whereas they have a mid factor of health and they have a high attack factor. So dragons are going to be strongest with their attack over time. So the way I've designed this is if you have a high attack factor, or if you have whichever health, defense, or attack, whichever one of these stats is the high factor, you start with a lower stat. So in this case, an attack. So you're going to have a lower attack than a guy that has 0.20, right? So for example, I don't see any 0.20s. I know they're in here somewhere. 0.30, 0.30, 0.20, a panther. So a panther is actually going to have more, at level 1, more damage than a dragon would at level 1. Now, so basically, if you have a high factor, you have a low starting stat. If you have a low factor, you have a higher starting stat. So a dragon's going to have a really high defense versus a ghost, right? Ghost is actually going to have less defense than the dragon. Dragon will have a higher starting defense. The reason for this is because it scales over time. So in order to balance this, because this defense of the dragon is so low, as he increases in level, it's going to kind of balance out versus a ghost, right? So a ghost has a really high defense starting out, but it gets it kind of is almost equivalent with that of a dragon over time when it hits a certain level, because of the way that it scales. So this is just a balancing feature to kind of switch things up and make it interesting. So just because you found that a ghost is the easiest creature because he has actually no, let's do a bat, right? Bat has a health factor of 30. Let's say you're fighting a creature based on his health. So he has a low starting health because he has the highest stat being a health factor. So you start out and you use him until you're level 50, right? Level 1 to 50 you found making dungeons with bats is the easiest because of their low health. Eventually though, you're going to have to switch to something else because at some point a creature that has like a different value might actually be better to use at a different point in time. Say at level 50, all of a sudden now the bats are too high. Their health is just really high versus somebody who had a different factor for health. So it's kind of hard to explain, but essentially it's a balancing feature, and we're going to kind of see how it works out and make little adjustments wherever I need. And then of course you can see it went up by 0.5 points for each tier. So now you're at a 0.35 from 30. Now you're at 0.40, 0.45, 0.50, 0.55. Same thing for defense. He started at 0.20, 25, 30, 35, 40. So we'll move on from that. We modified the spawner to allow a range of target levels to use, such as 1 to 5 or 10 to 20. This new range specifies what level to modify the chosen enemies to. So the best way I can explain this is, let's go ahead and switch the map. So I'm going to pause the video while this loads, because it takes a little bit to load. I'm not sure why that's saying. Okay, so here we are. We've got our main map, right? So let's just fly over to Fingal. So you can notice already that I've got some interesting changes going on, right? I've got level 40 to 50 spawning in this zone here. So in all of this area here, level 40 to 50 monsters will spawn. So I can literally select the spawner for this area, and you can see I have a level range of 40 to 50. So it will use the base stats that I've chosen based on their tier, right? All creatures have a base stat of health, attack, and defense based on their tiers, and it will use those to scale so that you have increased health, attack, and defense based on the level range. So it'll randomly spawn and choose a level and generate the correct stats for that level from 40 to 50 for this area. And I can easily change this to whatever I want. Maybe I want to update this so that actually only level 10 to 20 monsters spawn here, and 20 to 30 over here, or etc. I can change it easily on the fly without much effort. So you can see level 10, so let's start with Fingal, right? Because Fingal's where everyone's going to start. So you have Fingal here, and just right outside Fingal, you've got all right here level 1 to 5 creatures that will spawn. So let's click that. So level 1 to 5, right? So it could be questing is being done over here, or maybe you're just wanting to level up early on in the game. So you come in here and you can get up to 5 points from a level 5 creature. Or you can skip straight over here to level 5 to 10. Right? So now you got level 5 to 10 creatures over here. So and then maybe once you're done leveling here, you're gonna move on from 5 to 10, and maybe you want 10 to 15. So you got level 10 to 15 creatures that will all spawn in here. And it can be whatever creatures I add into the list. It could be minotaurs only, it could be spiders only, or it could be a mixture of whatever amount I want to spawn. It's real easy just to add one or take one away. After level 10 to 15, you have, obviously you wouldn't come over this hill and keep going this way, because then you're going to hit level 40 creatures, right? You're not supposed to be able to get to this town over here until you're a higher level. You can, obviously, there's nothing stopping you, but you're going to get one hit killed pretty often, or just have a really hard time surviving in that area. You're not ready for it. So at level 10 to 15, you would actually come back over here to the spider camp, right? The Venom Fang Grove. And I eventually would like to update the map to be like, this could be like a sort of grove area where it's dead trees and a bunch of spider webs. Now, instead of making the spider camps, I'm actually going to just spawn the spider with camp logic all in here. So you'll get the, let's look at our list of creatures. You'll get the dark spiders, which are not camp logic. You can get hairy spiders, which are also not camp logic. But then you have hunting spiders, spider hunting camp. These have camp logic, so you attack one hunting, all the huntings in a general area will come rushing to him to help attack you. Same thing for venom. You attack a venom, now all the venoms will come to you. You attack any demons that are around, and all the venom and hunting will come to you. So, and these will just randomly spawn in this entire area. So it's no longer a camp in just one spot. This entire area will be littered with camp monsters. You can see the spawn points that these guys will actually spawn in. So moving on from there, that was, let's click out of there so I can see that was level 15 to 20, right? So now you got level, we're looking for level 20, which would be right here, level 20 to 30. Basically, you'd start here, you'd work your way around this way, come to this way, and then you'd go back to town, go to the Venom Thing Grove, and then make your way back down here to 20 to 30, 30 to 40, and then level 40 to 50. So early on in the game, you don't need to do dungeons. You can literally just go to the area of monsters you want to fight. So, after 40 to 50, you're in a new town, so maybe we can do whatever questing we want eventually. Quests aren't really in the game just yet. Still, like, it's the system's there, but I've rarely messed with it since the beginning of development, so it needs a lot of work. And then you got level 50 to 60 in this whole area, and it looks small, but when you're actually down in here, you know, it's not that small. It's a pretty large area for you to be fighting creatures, so there won't be any lack of AI running around. After level 50 to 60, you got 60 to 70. You got a 70 to 75 little pool area here where I would like to spawn water creatures. But you don't have to, you could just do the 60 to 70, and you've got a level 70 to 80 in the area surrounding. So in this area here, all around the pool, you've got level 70 to 80. Or you could just, you know, go to the 70 to 75 area for a lower area. You know, you don't have 10 level range, you've only got a 5 level range, so it could be easier if you're level 60 or level 65. Then level 65 would be a perfect place to head here. So after that, you got 80 to 90 in this big area here, 90 to 100 over here, and so far that is as high as I've gone. I still need to finish off this whole side of the map. I eventually will. I might finish it before I release the first alpha test, or I might just fill it all in with something simple for now and add it to my to-do list. We'll see, because it does take time to set up this whole spline. That's what these are called, a spline area, you know, because I got to align it with the terrain and make sure it's walkable area. Otherwise AI might spawn like up on a side cliff and then spam a bunch of errors that they can't move. So, okay, moving on. We went into that one a little bit more. Just here's another little thing on the factors. You can see that if the factor is 0.20, then the health range is going to be 225 to 250. If they have a health range of a factor of 0.25, then you'll actually have a 200 to 225 range, right? And then if you have a 0.30, you've got only a health value starting at 175 to 200. So you can see the higher factor starts with a lower value. Same thing for attack range. High attack range, you see a high attack factor, 8 to 10. Mid factor is 10 to 12, and a low factor actually has 12 to 14. So the low factor actually has a higher attack, but it's going to scale over time, right? So even though you have a high factor, this guy with his low attack value but a high factor is going to pass this guy up eventually over time. So that's the balancing factor I spoke of. And you can see a bat has a health value of 185, attack of 10, a defense of 9, whereas a dragon has a higher health because he's got a mid factor versus the bat's high factor. They've actually got equivalent attack, right? Because 8 to 10, it's a dragon, I figured to give him a little extra attack versus a bat. So you can kind of see that. Alright, let's get right back into it. I need to close some of these windows. Alright, so we created all the logic behind the scenes to tweak enemy stats based on the scaling factors. We just went over all that. We generated all new starting health, attack, and defense for all enemy races. These new amounts are now what are tweaked when scaling an enemy to a higher level. We no longer have specific values for specific enemies. This makes the whole system way more, I'm not even going to pronounce that word, versatile, well, I'm going to say versatile, and balanced. Whenever an enemy has a high skill factor, he has a lower starting stat. Medium factor, medium starting stat, and if low factor, has a high starting stat. This helps to combat scaling getting too out of control while also giving a unique feel to AI progression. Early on, you may find the best enemy to use as a skiller. But over time, this can change where a different enemy at a certain level has scaled to be the new best enemy to use in the skiller, and so on and so forth. So we already went all over that. We also have we updated all existing enemies to match the generated values. All health, attack, defense values have been updated. We already showed you that. Updated the dungeon widget, geomancy widget, and the earth key tooltip to show correct mob level now that everything has changed, right? Because we no longer have specific levels for specific mobs. You can literally just make a dungeon for a target level. You want level 50 dungeon? Shoot for it. Put in the bead combination and you'll get your level 50. So we updated the Vagabond and Sentinel stats to new logic to reflect 25% increase in stats based on the scaling factors and not a pure 25% increase in attack, defense, and health. Basically, instead of scaling the enemy stats to the target dungeon level and adding 25% to all stats, it will now regenerate its level 25% higher and regenerate the stats based on an enemy of that level. We've added text module to the spawners, so I can set text above a spawner to whatever I want for development purposes. You guys already saw that. It was literally just the purple text you see for what level. That's just for me so I know what I have going on and what range. We have a bug fix. We added audio blueprints to the ignore list for spawners, right? So the issue was generating spawn points via splines would add spawn points inside the town if the spawner volume encompassed that part of the town, even though the spline itself is outside of the town. This was due to towns' audio splines using the very similar logic for their own splines, and thus the spawner would detect those splines and think them their own, leading to spawn points getting the okay to generate there. So just a bug fix, where it was putting spawn points inside areas it was not supposed to be able to. I've lowered the grass density, so it just seemed like there was quite a bit of grass spawning in, right? Like we didn't need tons and tons of grass, so you can see now there's plenty of more little holes in the grass, and it should be better graphically. So now when you set it down to a lower setting, you actually get less and less grass. So this is what it used to look like on the lowest setting of graphic for foliage, right? But now this is actually on what it looks like for the best settings of foliage, and it gets less and less as you lower the graphic setting. So nice little improvement there, and you can see it still looks pretty good. Right, we increased the grass view distance, so since I lowered the amount of grass, I increased the distance that you can see it out there. We set up spawners for all of Fingal and Mingle's area, plus other areas that you saw too. We added a small lake or a pond area to be used for water type creatures in the future. You guys saw that. We modified all village houses to be a static standalone mesh with 0 interior for best performance. Houses can have interior added in the future as a on-needed basis, such as questing if one would ever need to be inside a house. So before, inside the houses, let's go to Fingal. So it used to be whenever these houses were here, they were fully decked out with interior, right? Like it wouldn't load them unless you were close to it. So performance-wise, it wasn't a huge deal, but when you were close to it, that's a lot of extra draw calls from your processor to the graphic card. So it's just extra performance being ate up that didn't really need to be ate up, especially if you can't even go inside. So now I've basically got those blueprints, went into each one, duplicated it, and deleted out the interior, saved it as a separate new blueprint, and then threw it into the world, selected it, so that I could then merge it as a single unit, right? So now if I click on this house, it's one whole unit. So the graphic card and the processor only have to make one call to each other for this one unit rather than 500 different items inside the house. You know, each chair, each pot, each candle, each barrel, each the tons and tons. So a lot of extra performance gains there. And again, I have these as separate blueprints too, so if in the future we do want to deck out a house, add some interior and open up the door so that people can get in and out, or just make it a interactable door that you can just click to open, then it would be all decked out inside. So a nice little performance gain there. So now I can actually make it so that the houses are seen no matter what. Like you can see they're gone, right? It's because I have a volume encompassing this whole town. It says if the object is of X size, don't render it. But now I can remove that so that you just always see it, because the performance, it's like you can see the houses out there. I don't have a volume encompassing it, and I haven't set a culling distance for it. That's what I want. If you're playing on low settings, you should still be able to see the villages way out there, just on a lower quality one. So that's what I'm going to do is just kind of get these single unit houses and set them up to be lower quality based on the distance, so that way we can always see them, just for that extra little nice thing, like looking up on a hilltop and you can see one of the villages way out there. Just looks really cool. Alright, so we got fixed a target text name bug where the current set target would get stuck on screen when facing away from your target, sometimes even turning the whole screen red due to the text as using the full screen. So that was an annoying one that I recently fixed. So I won't go too much into that. Then we have another bug fix here. We fixed an additional issue with target text, the name, with other player characters. Other player names were sometimes not visible. Changed trace types to visibility instead of static mesh. So it was like, even though a player was outside the house and you were inside the house, you could still see their name, it didn't make any sense. Like your whole screen would be littered with player names all the time that are in the area, and you're fighting monsters or something and you got player name text splattered all over the screen. No, it should only render that text if they are visible on your screen. So fix there. We have another bug fix. We fixed an issue with the main server timing out due to too many actors being spawned and despawn system not being able to keep up. This was due to the way the system works, where it won't despawn any AI until the spawn queue is complete. This led to having 2K plus actors in the world that were alive and roaming, which led to horrid lag time and eventually timing out the server. Enabled despawn immediately in the optimization blueprint code area on AI. So basically, it's exactly what it sounds like. It was timing the server out, and after 60 seconds, the server would restart automatically. And so it was just stuck in a loop. So once I figured out how that system was working with spawning and despawning, I made that change and we were good to go. We have another bug fix. We fixed the maze walls not blocking other player name text. So block visibility traces were set to ignore when generating the maze. It's basically the same thing as before with a player text rendering. Now it's the dungeon walls weren't actually blocking the player name. Now they do. So I found a little area in there that needed to be fixed. So for that, I feel like there was something else regarding that, but we'll move on. Oh, right. So if you select a player, though, you can always see his name text because you have him as your target, right? So no matter where he hides behind a wall, you still know he's there because you have him selected. So therefore, his text does not disappear. If you unselect him, obviously you can't select him again until he's visible. So we have another bug fix. Again, we fixed the behavior trees too far from spawn wasn't working while in chase mode, so AI would chase you across the world if you kept distance, but once caught up to you and they stopped movement, they would then see that they were too far from home. So I fixed it to always restart that node of logic during the chase, so that it always checks, are we too far from home? No, continue chase. No, continue chase. Yes, cancel chase, go back home. We recreated 4 debuffs to be in a new component for easier editing, plus much cleaner view, as well as more versatile now that a player can call to them as well in case we ever want PvP. So I gutted out the 4 of the debuffs and put them in a brand new separate component. I can put this component on anybody I want, any specific class, or it's much more versatile that way. I added poison damage to combat log to read out for an enemy that received poison damage. That wasn't there before, now it is. I moved the attack speed buffs to the new component, the same one that I talked about for the debuffs. We got another bug fix. I found a attack speed buff breaking bug while moving it over and fixed it. So equipment stat updates were using movement speed and attack speed stat instead of attack speed and attack speed stat. I won't go too much into that. Either way, it was calculating movement speed in with attack speed and getting some off-the-wall calculations. So that's been fixed. Didn't even know that was there until I actually moved the component over, so that was a nice bug fix to find. And we have another bug fix. We fixed animation attack speed rate had stopped working correctly at some point, was always using the default 1.0 speed. Now it will scale again with buffed attack speed. Updated the other animations as well, sword and staff. So that one I had to research a little into, but essentially if your attack speed was so fast, you would just see your character's shoulder slightly move, and you'd never actually do the full animation because you're just attacking too fast. Now it's correctly scaled to just play that animation faster based on your attack speed. So we updated. Last thing, we updated the attack speed stat on the equipment screen from plus 26% attack speed to 126% attack speed. So you got, your basic 100 is your attack speed, and the 26 is the extra that you're getting. It'll now show your full attack speed at all times, and it'll be more useful when we add in debuffs to attack speed, so you can always just see what your actual total attack speed is. So that's pretty much everything up to this point. So now we'll just kind of go through a test run so you guys can kind of see everything in action. So let's go ahead and just start up a server. I actually built out the client just last night just to make sure everything was working as it should. And so far I've hit a couple hiccups that I had to go and fix, but nothing big. So far so good. Everything seems to be working. No crazy errors, no big issues. Let's turn that music down a little bit. Oh, okay. I can't get it onto the desktop. I didn't start the database. There you are. Okay. So there's still obviously work that needs to be done. I need to increase the zones for leveling out in the distance for the other side of the map. I need to go through the different skills, make sure that the experience required all matches. So this is at 45 to 50 frames on epic settings for pretty much everything. Turn the ocean to advanced. And this is with an RTX 2060, the laptop version. You see we have this is Fingal, We have like a little wheat farm here. I still do need to fix the clothing or the armor. You can see it's clipping through the character's body, so I need to still update that, and I still need to duplicate the armor set and create like the tin aluminum, steel, carbon, and zinc versions, and then kind of set them out towards the other towns. I'm not sure what I'll do just yet for that. So little things I need to do there. Ideally, I would like to make some sort of progression for you guys so that, you know, you start here and you hit up a merchant, you know, you buy your next set of armor, maybe it's aluminum, you know, you get your ingots, and then just go into the crafting and you'll have a new armor crafting area. Or you could just, I don't know if I'll make it where you could just buy them from the merchant. Probably make it so you can buy, or your first armor set will be gifted to you from the first quest. Otherwise you just got your basic clothing that you'll start with. So you have like your different merchants here. You get your basic totems and some recalls. I need to look into the tree billboards and see why that log is coming up. These won't be here. This is just development stuff. I could switch over to the Spirit Realm or the Dragon Realm there if I wanted. Every town will have one of these at the spawn point, so you could always, you know, fly out. You recall that this was the level 1 to 5 area. That was super loud. Need to fix that. So you can see he's level 1. You got a green dragon over here. It's also level 1. You got a level 3 Jade Minotaur. You can see their attack and defense. Level 2. We got a Vagabond, so the Vagabonds will spawn in the main world, but they're only going to be 1-droppers. But you can, you know, spot them fairly quick based on a bigger version of a monster, an AI, plus the aura going on. Oh, there's another big guy. That's definitely a Vagabond. So we'll go ahead and test this. We'll take this guy out. So he dropped 8,000 worth of loot and an oak staff. Most of that's basically the value is all coming from that oak staff. So Vagabonds are always worth killing off, you know. You can get that free dust or totem drop, staff drop. You can see we're down to about 30 frames. The ocean, this advanced ocean, is definitely more demanding on a graphic card. Like now we're down to 24. But it does look really nice. You could always, you know, shadows down to mid, that always helps. Textures will leave. Effects are fine. You can take the foliage down a bit. Anti-aliasing, none of those you can see really make much of a difference. The view distance, on the other hand, will help a little bit. The resolution scale will absolutely help, taking that down to 33%. Everything becomes kind of blurry, but the frame rate increased like that, getting 60 frames. So we could leave everything on epic and then just drag this down until you get your desired comfortable frame rate. You know, there's 40 frames and the game still looks fairly decent. Or you just simply turn the advanced ocean off. Although I will show you, I really like the underwater ocean effects, look nice. Or, you know, like I said, just turn it to simple. And now I'm still getting my 60 frames, roughly. Almost. Or, you know, I do have an off. I probably won't have that, though. Because the simple and off use roughly the same performance. So, I don't think turning it off is going to be an option. That's pretty much it at this point. You guys are all caught up. You've seen everything. We're not too far off from a first test, but there's still some balancing issues I need to make sure. You know, I need to make sure that, like, the leveling stuff is all set, which I'll be going over soon. I do need to add in the extra armor sets, and then figure out a new crafting ability for it. I might just, I don't know if I'll leave weapon crafting. Yeah, weapon crafting's for weapon. There'll be weapon crafting and there'll be armor crafting. But we will see. I mean, there could be other options to go about. Just the lower tier armors will probably be both craftable and sellable by merchants as you progress through the different towns. That way, you know, early on players that don't have the skill level can still play the game. So going back on that, since we have level ranges now, you literally just, you don't need to make dungeons for a good decent while in the beginning of the game. The dungeon crafting is still the best way to go if you want a full 10-pointer every time, you know. You just put in, maybe I want to fight a golem because for level 1 to 100 he has the best stats to kill for skilling or something, right? So we got level 1 golem, he's level 3 golem, so it doesn't matter. If I want minotaur, level 3 minotaur. If I want a plant, level 3 plant. They'll all scale correctly based on their stat factors now. So it's much more interesting this way. You want vampires? Sure, fight some level 3 vampires, no problem. You know, whatever you guys want. There you have it. Hope you guys enjoyed watching up to this point. If you have any questions, you know, just shoot them on the Discord and we'll just go from there. So until the next time, see ya.